Welcome back. President Bola Tinubu on Saturday urged the Nigerian Army to shun actions that could truncate Nigeria's democracy. The president made this plea at the Diamond Jubilee of the Nigerian Defense Academy (NDA) in Kaduna on Saturday, according to a spokesperson, Ajuri Ngelale. The president also urged them to continuously play their constitutional role of safeguarding the territorial integrity of the country. Tinubu added that the army must shun any acts that are inimical, to the well-being of our nations and acts which can destroy the gains of democracy which we have enjoyed in the last 20 years. While celebrating fallen heroes who lost their lives protecting the country's territorial integrity, President Tinubu added, the war against the enemies of Nigeria is not over. He charged the Nigerian army to upscale the fight against insecurity, which has robbed us of peace and progress. The president's plea to the Nigerian army to shun actions that are capable of truncating democracy comes as the continent witnessed a series of coup d'etats. And now we still know we have Mr. Akin Fatunke in the building with us this morning. I would like to ask you, I don't know, what do you make of this plea by the president? Do you think he's being a bit scared over the fact that some countries in Africa are beginning to embrace military rule over the democratic rule, stating issues like corruption, insecurity, and even increased poverty to be the reason? And that's what we're facing in Nigeria now.
And not only that, we are also facing widespread corruption electoral. Since about 20 years ago, we haven't gotten our politics right. I also think that in the past 20 years, especially, we have not operated a constitution that will take us to the right place. And Mr. President, while appealing to the military to try and face their constitutional role, when you see fear, you know you have fear. And if you have common sense, you begin to do things that you want to obviate. So my first point, or my first reaction, is that there is an admittance, de facto, that all is not well with Nigeria. Internally, there is the jury, by law, speaking by law, that Nigeria is not united. There is also an admittance to the almost truth that our security forces are not the happiest that you should expect, whether in terms of hygienic needs meeting, whether in terms of the big C in the room, which is corruption, which has torn us all apart. So it therefore tells that Mr. President might be giving a subtle hint. I am sure that if we are privy to seeing some security reports, there will be little unrest here and there. I know in the past 7 months, at least in the past 7 months, maybe once, maybe twice, the service chiefs have had to repledge their loyalty to Nigeria. But I mean, if Mali, if Gabon, if Burkina Faso, if Sudan, and lately Niger are all going to the other side, there is a wind of change. And what did they cite as rising the tide? They cited corruption, they cited poverty, they cited insecurity. Now, which of these can we say we don't have in Nigeria? We have them, and we have them aplenty. Now, if you now then say, yes, they are there, and we are going to continue to find a way to untangle them. But something else that not just came on top of that, which is the economic instability that we are having. I think this president, and I will say it for any umpteenth time, has started boldly and well, but has not executed with good example, right from himself and those who surround him. I also think that the office of the president is showing signs of, I don't want to be harsh, I don't want to say incompetence, but incapability to guard and guide towards helping to build trust. Being bold to say, Mr. President, no, we are not going to go that direction. This is the direction we should go into. Did he cause it in the past 8 months? No. And I will keep on saying that anybody that came into the saddle of Nigeria on May 29 will also be confronted with the same problem. Perhaps it's only the body language and the exemplary character either or of them will bring to bear that will be the situation of things. Okay. Now, please let me also say, when Mr. President said that, and was talking to the military on that Diamond Jubilee 10-day, that the enemies of Nigeria are still very much there. Mr. President should be told, and he should know, that one of the key segment of the enemies we have in Nigeria is the political class. They have not done well at all levels. I'm not just talking at the presidency, I'm not talking at National Assembly, I'm not talking about the judiciary. At some national levels, state governors, they have not done well to the extent that we expect them to do well. I think they have allowed wanton corruption and greed and lack of sense of shame to be cloud. So for how long will you continue to beg?
All right, let me
rather than beg, please begin to
I would
cure.
like for you to take us down memory lane a bit here, as a historian that you are. When we had coups in Nigeria and the military, jumped in to take over, they cited corruption, they cited bad leadership, they cited hunger as part of the reasons why they decided to take over and administer the state. If you want to draw a comparison between what it was then and what Nigeria has experienced in the past almost 9 years, would you say we haven't gotten to, a stranglehold of some sort at this time?
Well, I don't know about stranglehold. All I know is that we have gone backwards. During Abacha's time, he was talking about consulting clinics. Perhaps a bit far better than what we have in most states of the Federation. We now have where you can just take somebody and then the person should be singing his or her non-activities. We have adulterated drugs arising from high costs and what has happened at least within the last 8 years. We don't have good security, and of course, when they came at that time, they knew they were going to come, get a few civilians, subvert the constitution, begin to feather their nests. Almost invariably, when Nigeria was awash with petrodollars, we had some little bit of showing here and there, but they took us far backwards. Today,
the military, you mean? The military?
The military, yes. Democratically speaking. But now we now got into Agbada and Babariga. What do we see? Some people are even saying, please, maybe that's a better time than what we have now because corruption have just not gone off that roof. General Obasanjo retired, did something very interesting. Again, it leads to the debates as to who should be the president of Nigeria. It should be a bit of everything. And one of the first things that he did from day one was to unplug the political exposed military men and took them off. This time around, some 30, years after the demise of MKO, we could say that Tinubu too has taken a decision to plug in a couple of people that are quote and unquote supposed to be loyal to the state, but those people can only hold their men and women to the extent that good governance, and they are not also feeling very hungry. So between then and now, I'm able to tell you that we've gone backwards. Stranglehold, yes. When you are strangled, you are about the knees on your neck, and you can lose your breath. Why Nigeria has not lost the breath in accordance with what Babangida said at one point in time, it beats my own imagination. We are educationally, health-wise, political consideration. There are 17 SDG goals. On all the SDG goals, Nigeria has not moved. Well, really, let's be fair. Nigeria has moved 2 steps
Let's
forward
look at
and 5 steps backwards.
I'm sorry, I'll have to interrupt you at this point. Let's look at what this government has placed emphasis on in the past few months. Now, I'm going to talk about the purchasing of certain comfort for the National Assembly. Let's also look at the fact that the just concluded Africa Cup of Nations saw APC progressive governors donate 200 million naira to the Super Eagles. It might be a good thing, but then it's at a time when there is hunger in the land. That money probably would have been donated to purchasing some sort of equipment that would be used. Now, it's also at a time, equipment to be used for farming or something else. It's also coming at a time where grains that were supposed to be released some time back, there's no news as to if they were. And a time where the government is also calling for more grains to be released because of hunger in the land, because of protest in some parts of the country, Mina and Kano, case in point. It's also coming at a time, a whole lot has happened. It's also coming at a time where, I don't know if you saw this, a video that trended some weeks back on X, where a soldier went back to camp. Apparently he was on vacation. He was supposed to leave camp. But then, from his narration, he got to the terminal where he was supposed to board a bus from his the theater in the north to his base in the west, and he couldn't because transport fare was over 50,000 naira and his salary was 50,000 naira. And he took his bag back to camp. So he was going to spend his vacation in camp at the theater of war. Because of what? Salaries were small. Now, talking about salaries, we're also in a time where the government, albeit the federal government cleared the monies owed to the Super Eagles, that came to the tune of 12 billion naira. Good one. But being faithful, loyal, and honest as Nigerians, aren't these things critical issues that is enough to cause chaos? Enough. It's beginning to look like the government is just, trying to pacify the people with words, with promises, without concrete things. Wage award has not been paid. Are you aware? It's been paid twice. The 35,000 naira wage award has been paid twice. The 25,000 naira for poorest of the poor, there's no statistics as to how much that has been paid. And here we are. I'm going to use a word. It might not be appropriate, but that's the word coming to my mind. Here we are, cajoling, that's the word, the military to sit tight and not venture into taking over authority in this state. If you treat people well, wouldn't they just ordinarily support you. Do you think this government is even this government has a desire from what we have right now, from the statistics I've dropped on the table? Do you see the desire to treat the people well?
I give them benefit of doubt. I give them benefit of doubt, but in reality, all what you have read out, statistics, whether alleged, whether real, that we all can see, can feel, and smell, is a sign of a failed state. Nigeria is failing. Okay, so if we are doing strategic discussions, I just spoke about the SDG goals, 17 all in red. We've tried to draw it. The capacity to be able to pay salaries is not there. We are not earning enough revenues to pay salaries, is the truth. And then the little that we are getting, some people are sitting on it and using it to go gifting. Gifting, it's what we call precious things that does not hit the bottom line. And if you don't also have a sense of shame, then what do you say? Let me just take my own and then go away. It's what we faced in the last 8 years. It's what we also faced in the PDP government that, part of it, insecurity and what have you. So if you are a failed state, why will you? It's just that we are always very careful to make certain pronouncements. If you are failed states, he that is down fears no fall. We are very, very poor. We are poor in spirit. We are poor all over, and unfortunately, again, we have had a government in place that has not shown good example. But I'm also alarmed that in forming this government, we also have governments that are not necessarily within the government in the center. Have we really seen the marked difference, whether at the National Assembly, to now then say, no, I want to stand different? The bottom line is simple. We are in a train, a bus, a motor vehicle that's not going to take us to any promised land. We are in dire straits. Nigeria is in a state of flux. I agree, today we have an elected government, whether at the federal and the state, that needs to do a little bit more, in fact, double up more. But are they going to be able to want to do that, to lead by example? I keep on saying it all the time. One of the things that needs to be done is for us to begin to see personal example. One of my colleagues, Bismarck Rufai, has made a statement, and one of the statements he made is that, please come clean to Nigerians, no matter how bad. This is not a time for us to now be sugarcoating. Come clean. What is the real state of our economy? Don't come and be telling us that we are going to be net exporters. Don't tell us, don't go to the military and be telling them they should. Look, all those are platitudes. Let's see clear steps forward.
Well, the government has said that opposition parties should come together and work with them, bring the ideas, work with them, and not just that. To some people, it gives the impression that the government, this government in power, is clueless.
No, I don't think so. Consensus building is not one straight, one party. Nigeria is multi-plural. I think it's wise. I don't think anybody can rule Nigeria without the kind of consensus that we should build, because we don't still have that consensus. Perhaps it's one of the reasons why the trust deficit is so wide. No, I think they are not clueless. I think such consensus also means that the way you make appointments from the center will be all encompassing. And when people now begin to see that they are not marginalized anyway, at the end of the day, they can bring in some of their best.
But as a
I
historian,
also think, seriously speaking, and talking about asking the opposition to come, I haven't seen opposition in Nigeria. I'm sorry, and I don't want to get into an argument. There is no effective opposition. An effective opposition will say, "This is the way you are going. This is the way I will do it." I haven't seen that. It's all wrong.
Now, the consensus you just made mention now.
Yes.
I remember sometime in August last year, the retired generals called the same government and gave them some level of advice to be a bit careful as against how they reach out to the army and also the people. In other words, there were some people who spoke to the government as regarding security, corruption. Of course, they made mention of the fact that things aren't working in the country. The army also, in August, made a clear statement that there is no kind of coup in plan. You just made mention of consensus. Now, my question is this. If this government is really big on wanting to do better, don't you think the warnings by these retired generals who are also part of the army, because let's also face it, they've been there before, isn't that worthy enough to hold on to and to do what is right, particularly as regarding the army? Of course, Moses just made mention of their salaries, and I'm just okay. Let me just relate a bit of the structure, salary structure here. A general earns 1.5 million naira monthly. Lieutenant General 1 million naira. Major General 950,000. Brigadier General 750,000, and on and on. But the people who go to the field, the least they earn from a cadet level is 50,000 naira.
David, I'd like you to extend that to the educational sector. Those who are professors, are they earning anything better? Those at the bottom layer, Osifu and the labor leader have cried foul. I mean, I'm really interested in the specifics that these generals have given this government, because those generals that you are talking about are part and parcel of the system. The only, in my own view, the only advice that anybody can give, whether you are military, whether you are civilian, is the fact that the constitution of Nigeria is not working and it's not going to take us elsewhere. End of story. It's not going to take us anywhere. Naturally, the generals want to talk and speak to their people. Within those general ranks, we have also seen they're sitting and putting monies in septic tanks. One of them was just let off on terms that on corruption. So it's a whole lot of confusion in between. And the only pathway is to say that this house has fallen. It takes a heart of steel to say this house has fallen. Get out of that house and let's now find a way to try and rebuild. All this, and the only way to rebuild is by the political class. The political class, and that consensus that I'm talking about, will be, as we speak today, fortunately or unfortunately, we are divided into ethnic and religious lines. Somebody from the north, somebody from the southeast, someone from the southwest.
Isn't that something the politicians sold to us?
Well, those are the realities of where we are, and if that continues, then Nigeria cannot breathe. So we must all come together, sit on a table, and make a decision. Make a pronouncement. To your thanks, O Israel, within this ambit and procedure and processes, bring a few things to the center if you want to continue to be Nigeria. Nigeria is negotiable, pure and simple. I do not, and you know, I can also tell you in oil and gas, In oil and gas, we also have our own issues and our own wahala, subsidy or no subsidy, bad fuel or no bad fuel. In the banking sector, you see what has happened in central bank. I say put all these things together and say everything has not worked for us in Nigeria. Let's be the consensus, let's be the trust. Let's sit down around the table and fashion a way in such that if you don't produce, you don't eat.
Is there the possibility that Nigeria, the government, let me start from there, can have a consensus with the people who at this point are feeling very not secure, very hungry, and very distant from the political allies? Is there the possibility of bringing those same kind of people to a roundtable talk? Knowing full well that at this point, I'm looking at you from the point of you're telling me to come talk to you after I see you lounge in several ways.
The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria easily is the most powerful human being on surface earth. Take what I've just told you. The constitution that brings that president, he has so much influence. And if he has the willpower, all he needs to do, without necessarily looking at his own interests, is say, the interest of Nigeria, we must all get together and come to terms.
Is that the willpower for this political allies?
I hear what you are saying. They don't have a choice. And one of the reasons why they don't have a choice, we are beginning to see the signs. The Kano uprising, the Mina protest, the protests that the bandits and the terrorists are saying directly or indirectly is staring all of us in the face. We also see a situation where Mr. President is speaking to the military constituency. The center is not holding. And the only way, if we want to avoid going the Jerry Rawlings style of revolution, it's not then say, let's all of us come together. It is in our self-interest to come and say that Nigeria is not working. The people are getting very, very restful. Call the National Assembly. Talk to them. Let's find a way to fashion a new constitution. Okay. So people say that maybe you can continue to tinker with this constitution here and there. That is where I think you have a point to say the people will not want to take the rug off their feet. Let's take this option of Professor Akunyili. Openly come out and say, we have failed. We are not going anywhere with the way we are structured. If we don't do it, sooner than later, I pray, like Awolowo said, that the ship of Nigerian state will not hit the rock and we'll find ourselves in a Titanic situation.
But don't you think, Mr. Akin, that if they are to, for one to call for this constitutional review, there must be a referendum and all that. Yes. And we know actually that in Nigeria as a country, a lot of people are actually beginning to agitate for, regional rule, or maybe they want to segregate and all that. But now, don't you think when they want to call this, looking at the history of the country, the way it is, the way the country actually came in, the amalgamation process and everything, don't you think that actually that can intensify the cry for, I want to be on my own. I don't want to be a Nigerian again. Remember what happened, what led to the civil war, and all that. So don't you think that actually can lead to that? Don't you think that's what they're scared of?
And what's wrong with that?
Are you of the opinion that Igbos should be on their own, or this region go back? Niger.
I am not even prescribing.
One take care and all that.
I'm not even assuming or prescribing anything. Let's all come together and talk about it.
But coming together is proving difficult. We know that when Buhari took over when Buhari launched his military rule and took over from Shehu Shagari, he said that he did that. He launched a coup. He took over because of corruption and wastefulness. He pointed that to be his reason. And then the same Buhari came to rule us in Nigeria as now a democratic president. And what happened during his own time?
And what happened during Jonathan's time?
I think people can tell you that what happened during...
Jonathan, who is not up north, south, what did Jonathan do to now then say, this country is not working? I'm going somewhere.
Okay.
Where I'm going to and the point I am making, and I stand on that point, is that Nigeria is not working. Even when you said it's going to be difficult, much more difficult than where we have found ourselves, going down the slope, that a place like Rwanda, that should be just about a few local government areas, are shining and blazoning all over, and we cannot get into our potential. We can't get into our potential because we are different people, different cultures, different religions, but we can still fashion a system whereby if the Southeast wants to go, well, let's take the referendum and go. If Southwest wants to go, look, is this fair? Is this fair that Nigeria is, everything is going to go into places? I think Nigeria is going to be stronger. My conviction, Nigeria is going to be stronger when we go into our different ways and then decide that we still want Nigeria and put something in the center. It therefore means if you don't produce, you won't eat. Pure and simple. Unlike what we are having in this unitary system that we are calling federal, you don't produce, you take a large chunk of those who produce. It's as simple as that. We should bury this fear. We should look at it frontally in the face, and we should tell ourselves a honest truth. The kind of terrorism that is going on around Nigeria, that terrorists are issuing threats, are telling you that this is what they are going to do, this is what... It's a clear sign that the system is just not going to work. It's not working.
All right. Mr. Aki, we just
sorry,
have to...
like I'm sorry I sounded harsh. It's not at you.
No.
But it's to everybody that listens to me. You can come and debate it with me, but I am telling you, with my age and where I have reached, it will be foolhardy, and it will be most irresponsible of me, for me to see the truth as I say it, even if you say I'm wrong, and not be able to say it for the sake of generations unborn. I have to say that truth. It's the only clear path forward, so that the likes of you can then
blossom. All right then. Thank you very much, Mr. Akin Fatunke. Let's quickly move over to our second topic. Now we're going to Zamfara State now, where the Zamfara State government has announced a ban in sales of a loaf of bread and petrol being sold in jerry cans to motorists and motorcycle riders, all for security concerns. But let's talk about this one when we come back from this break.